In the 1830s, ketchup wasn't food. It was medicine. Tomato extract pressed into pills, swallowed as a cure for cholera. Years earlier, the tomato was feared as deadly poison. And before that, ketchup had no tomatoes at all. It began as a fermented fish sauce from Southeast Asia. How a pungent brine became a pill, survived a fraud scandal, and landed on every table starts somewhere you'd never expect. Long before it met a single French fry, this sauce belonged to the salty, windswept ports of maritime Southeast Asia. The ancestor of ketchup was a dark, pungent brine made by salting fish or shrimp and leaving them in wooden vats to break down. Along the coast of southern China, Hokkien speakers called this liquid ko chiap, or ki chiap, while in Malay and Indonesian trading hubs, it became known as kicap, or kai cap. In 1682, English writer John Chamberlain made the first printed reference to this import as ketchup. By 1690, British slang dictionaries described ketchup as a high East India sauce. British maritime traders carried the name and the recipe toward England. In 1703, trader Charles Lockyer noted that while soy sauce came in tubs from Japan, the best ketchup came from Tonquin, in modern-day Vietnam. This original trade cargo was neither sweet, nor red, nor made of tomatoes. When British cooks tried to reproduce this import at home, they substituted the Asian ingredients with whatever was available in local kitchens. For more than a century, English ketchup was made from mushrooms, walnuts, oysters, and anchovies. Eliza Smith's 1727 cookbook, The Complete Housewife, published an early recipe, while Richard Bradley's 1732 ketchup and paste relied on green walnuts. Hannah Glass's 1747 mushroom variations and the 1758 anchovy tradition dominated English kitchens. These dark, thin liquids were salty, acidic, and heavily spiced, designed to accompany meats and soups. Lacking refrigeration, cooks relied on salt, vinegar, wine, and spices to preserve the sauce. The resulting flavor was closer to modern soy or Worcestershire sauce. During this era, ketchup remained entirely tomato-free, and a red, fruit-based version would have seemed utterly bizarre to any Georgian cook. While British cooks were busy boiling walnuts and mushrooms, they completely avoided the tomato. Botanists classified this bright South American import under the nightshade family, linking it directly to toxic weeds. European medical pamphlets from the 16th century onward warned readers to stay away, labeling the fruit a beautiful but lethal hazard, the poison apple, or love apple. For generations, the public believed that eating a single tomato would end their life. A persistent historical theory suggests wealthy aristocrats fell violently ill because the fruit's natural acids leached lead from their pewter plates. While modern scholars view this lead poisoning explanation as incomplete and unproven as a universal cause, the terror was genuine. Driven by unfamiliarity and alarming medical texts, society treated the harmless fruit as a deadly weapon. And then, an American doctor decided this feared, toxic plant was actually a miracle cure. That physician was John Cook Bennett. But before his campaign took off, another doctor had already taken the first steps. In 1812, a Philadelphia physician named James Mees published the first known recipe for tomato ketchup. This early formulation was a heavily spiced, brandy-fortified pulp, entirely lacking the sweet, thick consistency of the modern table condiment, but it quietly cracked the door for the fruit's acceptance. 22 years later, in 1834, John Cook Bennett threw that door wide open. He launched a massive campaign promoting tomato extract as a sweeping medical cure, asserting that the tomato possessed extraordinary healing properties capable of treating indigestion, diarrhea, jaundice, cholera, and rheumatism. Bennett condensed his tomato formula into concentrated pills, selling them directly to a remarkably receptive public. Sufferers bought into the hype, convinced that this simple pill was the key to physical wellness. Supported by aggressive advertisements and rising popular enthusiasm, these claims successfully transformed a feared garden weed into a fashionable, must-have remedy setting off a hugely profitable patent medicine craze. Throughout the 1830s and 1840s, this craze solidified into a physical, highly lucrative commodity. Manufacturers took tomato extract, concentrated it, and pressed or compounded the pulp into pills. This was the era of patent medicine, commercially sold remedies that operated entirely outside the boundaries of modern safety and pharmaceutical regulations. To be clear, these pills were not modern, savory, bottled ketchup compressed into tablets. They were bitter, concentrated tomato extract remedies marketed as total cure-alls. Instead of sitting beside food on a dinner plate, this tomato product lived in the household medicine cabinet, swallowed with a gulp of water. Bottles of these miracle pills flooded the market, distributed through local apothecaries, general stores, and traveling salesmen who traversed the American countryside. Period reports suggest a single bottle sold for roughly $1 to $2, a substantial sum at the time that promised total health in exchange for a few swallowed pills. With immense profits on the line, this lucrative market quickly devolved into a bitter war of words and lawsuits. Rival manufacturers flooded newspapers with mutual accusations of outright fraud. In the print columns, Archibald Miles and Guy Phelps traded public insults, with Miles calling his rival's remedies worthless, and Phelps retaliating by questioning Miles's medical credentials. Competitors dragged each other to court, lodging legal complaints that alleged rival products contained no measurable tomato extract, dismissing them as purely a placebo. Because 19th century patent medicines lacked strict ingredient disclosure laws, everyday consumers had no reliable way to verify what they were buying. The absurdity of a tomato miracle cure containing absolutely no tomato began to sink in. By the late 1840s, this relentless wave of public feuds and exposure of fake pills shattered the market's credibility. The profitable bubble burst, leaving shelves of unsold bottles in its wake. But while the medicine cabinet was closed to the tomato, commercial food producers were about to introduce a far more dangerous set of problems. By the late 19th century, tomato ketchup returned to its liquid form, migrating from the pharmacy to the grocery shelf. But early commercial bottling introduced a new set of dangers. To prevent rapid spoilage and extend shelf life, some producers mixed chemical preservatives like sodium benzoate and sulfur compounds directly into the bottles. Opaque glass and stoneware containers hid the contents, allowing factories to use overripe or even rotten tomato pulp as cheap raw materials. To mask the resulting brown color, manufacturers added synthetic coal tar dyes, industrial colorants originally developed for textiles, to mimic the bright red of fresh fruit. Not every brand adopted these methods, but the pressure to cut costs in a rapidly growing, unregulated market was severe. A sauce intended to improve food could now quietly make it worse. Henry Heinz entered the food business in 1869, initially selling grated horseradish. By 1876, he adopted clear glass bottles for his new tomato ketchup, letting buyers inspect the color and apparent condition before purchasing. This packaging acted as a commercial trust mechanism, signaling that the company had nothing to hide, even if visibility did not guarantee absolute purity. In 1886, Heinz established his enduring formula of ripe tomatoes, sugar, salt, spices, and high-acidity vinegar, which provided both a sharp flavor profile and natural preservation. When consumer advocacy groups and state regulators pushed for the landmark Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, Heinz lobbied alongside these reformers to secure strict industry-wide standards that outlawed toxic chemical additives. Today, ketchup sits in 97% of United States households. Though its title as the most popular condiment on Earth remains a widely repeated cultural claim rather than a verified global statistic, the long history of this former Southeast Asian fish brine into a trusted mass-market table staple is complete. Today, that red bottle represents a hard-won victory over toxic dyes and medical scams. In a world of processed foods, it reminds us that trust is hard to build, but easily bottled. What ordinary object hides the strangest history? Let us know in the comments.